So I think most of you would agree that while it isn't perfect, Battlefield 6 and what we experienced in the beta is easily the best Battlefield game since Battlefield 1 almost a decade ago. It feels like the bones of this game are really good and there's so much potential, but that doesn't mean that it's flawless, and on top of the bigger issues, there are also some more nitpicky things that I have some issues with too. And so today I wanted to run you guys through some maybe under the radar areas of the game that I would love to see them improve in the lead up to launch in October of this year. Now, one of the first things that I have an issue with, and again, this is a pretty small thing at the end of the day, it's not game breaking by any means, but something that I was consistently running into when I was playing the beta, especially as someone who really enjoys playing that typical sort of medic role in the game, is that the feedback for reviving teammates is honestly not very good at all. And there were often times where I was reviving teammates, but I simply couldn't tell if I had actually revived them or not. So therefore I'm sort of standing over them. I've hit revive and they are actually revived, but I don't know straight away. Sometimes I would charge the defib again, trying to do it again, only to realize they're already alive again. And that comes down to essentially the feedback from the game itself, as well as the UI or the HUD, where it isn't really giving you that feedback that you have successfully revived that teammate. Now, I think that this realistically would be a pretty easy fix, adding some sort of audio cue or even something like a hit marker, for example, where obviously when you're shooting at an enemy, you know you've hit them because you get a hit marker. Doing something similar like that, but obviously slightly unique for the purpose of reviving teammates. Just something to sort of let you know that you have revived that teammate would be really, really handy. Now, I'm pretty sure they've already confirmed they're looking into this. I'm not sure who it was, but I remember during the beta, one of the developers was talking about this on Twitter. So I'm fairly sure this will be fixed, but I thought it was worth mentioning anyway, because that is one area that I felt was really lacking, especially compared to previous games. And I think if they fix that up, it would make it not only a little bit easier, but also honestly a little bit more rewarding and satisfying each time you can revive. Now, something else I have a bit of an issue with is the netcode of this game. It felt like there were some pretty serious time to kill issues, when in reality, now that I've actually had the time to sort of think about it, it feels like those were more elements of desync and just overall something being a little bit off with the servers, where it felt like you were dying really quickly in close quarters, and sometimes maybe you were if you were getting headshot and stuff like that, but it did feel like sometimes it was actually just due to the servers and the information not really being relayed to me. So maybe I'm seeing an enemy a bit later than they're seeing me on their screen, if that makes sense. And that's something that, again, across the board, I think most people seemed to agree with that there were time to kill issues when it may not have actually been the time to kill in the first place. So hopefully they can sort of improve on that in the lead up to launch. Obviously it was just a beta, so we can't judge it too harshly until the full launch, but obviously if it does launch like that, I think it's not going to be quite good enough, and hopefully they can get that stuff sorted. Something else that weirdly felt inconsistent to me after actually praising it a lot when I was in LA talking about the game on stream, someone asked me, I think it was one of my mods actually, was asking me about the footstep audio and whether it was really good or not, and I remember saying blatantly, no, it's really good in this game. It feels really solid. You can always hear enemies and stuff like that. And then once the beta actually arrived and I had more time in the game, I noticed that it was actually very inconsistent. Now, sometimes the footstep audio is kind of too loud, and that's mostly to do with teammates. It felt like you would hear footstep audio like crazy if you're in the middle of a building, for example, and you couldn't really tell if those were teammates or enemies, so it just sort of sent you into a bit of a panic because you don't know really what's going on. And then there were other times too when the footstep audio was so quiet that you could borderline not hear it. And I'm not talking about people crouch sprinting, I'm talking about witnessing people sprint past me, enemies I'm talking about, and I could see them sprinting. They weren't crouch sprinting, they weren't just walking along, they were literally sprinting, and I could barely hear their footsteps. And yet in other times it felt really, really good. And so I think it's more of an inconsistency rather than just being bad audio. I think the audio design in this game is actually fantastic. It's probably some of the best audio design since Battlefield 1 in my opinion, but I do think that the footstep audio was just a little bit inconsistent, sometimes too loud, sometimes not loud enough. And hopefully they can get that a little bit better, because I think if they can nail that, that will really add a lot to the gameplay, especially when it comes to the Battle Royale down the line. I think that footstep audio is crucial in a mode like that. And so hopefully they can get that sorted. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are interested in more Battlefield 6 content in the lead up to launch, and obviously plenty more after launch as well, be sure to hit that subscribe button because there is plenty more on the way. So make sure you don't miss out. Now, moving on, a very nice quality of life change that I think they could add is actually putting a search bar in the settings. Now, there is a confirmation at this point after one of the recent trailers that there are 600 plus settings in this game. And while some people might say that that's too much, and I can sort of understand that, for me personally, the more settings, the better, because it just means more customization for us. The downside to that, though, is that it obviously becomes very cluttered and it can be very hard to find the exact setting you're looking for, especially when a lot of these settings actually look very similar, the wording's very similar, and some of them actually show up in multiple places within the settings menu. And so despite it being a good thing in my opinion that there's so many settings, I think that that does need to be just sort of managed a little bit better. Now, an easy way to do that, in my opinion, and I say easy, obviously not being a game developer, I'm sure it's probably fairly hard to actually do this, but one thing I would love to see is just simply putting a search bar in the settings so that you can just search for exactly the setting you're looking for. Obviously, there are a bunch of different sensitivity settings, and so if you just searched sensitivity, it would just pop up with every single setting that has the word sensitivity in it, and it would just filter those down and make them a lot easier to find. Now, another alternative to this, if the search bar is maybe a little bit harder than we're all making it out to be, is something that I think is one of the few things, realistically, that Call of Duty has actually done really well in recent years, where in all of the recent Call of Duty games, you can actually go through your settings and pretty much save your regularly used settings to your quick settings, which is its own separate tab. And so then when you open the settings, the first thing that shows up is your quick settings, and these are settings that you have put there yourself. And it just means that if there is stuff you change regularly, if you're one of those people who's constantly changing sensitivity or changing your field of view or anything like that, changing keybinds or whatever, you can save those regularly changed settings to the quick settings, and then from there you can just access them a lot easier, reducing that fluff a little bit, because there is obviously a lot of different settings and going through all of them every single time can be very, very frustrating. Now, something else I would love to see changed as well is just some elements of the scoreboard. Now, first and foremost, it's great that we just have a scoreboard in the first place. Obviously, if you guys played 2042 at launch, that game literally did not have a scoreboard, which is insane to think about. And so it is good that we do finally have a scoreboard at launch, which is, again, kind of insane to say. But despite having that scoreboard, and I think it's fine how it is, one thing I would love is to actually see them making the most of the scoreboard as it currently is. Because I think at the moment, if you look at this picture of the scoreboard, there is a lot of dead space there, where obviously they've left a lot of room for people who have like really long names or whatever. And I think that's fine, but there is just a lot of dead space in the middle there. There's also a little bit of space that I haven't used on the sides of the screen, where they could even extend the scoreboard just a little bit and make even more room. Now, something I would love to see them add to the scoreboard, sort of taking a bit of room from that area where the names are, is including stuff like revives, for example. We've had that in previous scoreboards, so I'm not sure why it isn't there. And then even adding some more random stuff like resupplies or vehicle kills, for example, just random little things like that that are maybe even interchangeable for us, so we can actually choose how we want it to look, what's included, for example. I think that would be really cool. And something else that I think is especially important is showing our ping, whether that's our actual ping in terms of a number, or if it's just the connection status where it has like the 4 bars, and if you're on a good connection it has all 4 bars and they're green. If someone's on a bad connection, it's just 1 bar and it's red or whatever. I personally love when I can check the scoreboard and just see my ping and everyone else's ping like they've had in previous games. And so I think some of those changes would really just make that scoreboard have a lot more information without it being too hard, because like I said, there is a lot of dead room there that could be utilized a little bit better. Now, I'm sure it also would look pretty damn cluttered if there's just a heap of information there, and I know that they probably don't want it to be really cluttered. What they could do to avoid that is actually just kind of keep it how it is currently, but then add a toggle in the settings where you can actually turn on like advanced scoreboard or something like that for those of us who just want a bit more information. Because for me, I'm okay with it looking a bit more cluttered if I've chosen that and I want the extra information, if that makes sense. So keep it how it is, add a toggle for an advanced scoreboard, and then from there you kind of get the best of both worlds, in my opinion, and that would be a really nice little quality of life change. Now, last but definitely not least, and I'm not going to lie, this one is a bit of a hot take, so I'm sure most of you probably will disagree with this, and that is completely fine, but something I really want them to add in this game is kill cams, similar to how it is in Call of Duty, and even I'm pretty sure games like Overwatch, for example, have kill cams. I really think that that would be something that would benefit Battlefield quite a bit. Now, I know a lot of comments will probably say, oh, you're just a COD fanboy, stop trying to make Battlefield like COD and stuff like that. And if you think that about me, then you clearly haven't been listening, because I'm one of those people who will pretty much take any chance I can to roast modern day Call of Duty. I love old school COD, but modern COD I'm not a fan of at all. So no, I'm not a COD fanboy, but I do think that kill cams are a great element or mechanic of those games. There are multiple different reasons for this. One, if someone is cheating in the lobby, you can very easily tell by watching their kill cam, and therefore you can just report them a whole lot easier. If you can't see the kill cam, even if it feels like they were cheating, you don't really know because you haven't seen their perspective. And so I think that is a big thing. Secondly, I also do personally just enjoy watching kill cams to see how they killed me, to see if I can learn from that and see what I actually did wrong, or just if they're clearly just a far better player than me. Sometimes it kind of puts your mind at ease to just go, okay, they just shat on me because they're way better than me, and that's completely fine. It's just something that I think benefits everyone, and obviously if you don't care about a kill cam, you can literally just skip it. So to me, there is no downside to this at all. Now, maybe if they want to keep the current death screen how it is, because to be fair, I do think it would feel weird going away from that. That's how Battlefield's always been, where you die and you can just sort of see the enemy that killed you. Going straight to a kill cam might make it feel too Call of Duty-ified, if that makes sense. And so a way to do this would be to just have the current death screen. So you die, the enemy shows up on your screen with the little outline of them, how it is now in Battlefield 6, where it shows like where they killed you from, rather than just following that enemy. But then maybe add a button so you can have obviously like skip the death screen, or in the case of Battlefield, it's more of a cancel the ability to be revived and you go back to the spawn screen. Or while you're downed, you could actually just have a button where you can watch the kill cam. And the good thing is, because obviously you can be revived in Battlefield, you could watch the kill cam and then someone can come along and revive you, and you've actually seen how you died, and then someone's picked you up and you're just back into the battle anyway. So for me personally, I would love to see that added again. I'm sure that's a bit of a hot take, but I think that would be great, especially to when it comes to the Battle Royale getting added down the line. Learning how someone has outplayed you, learning what they did to kill you, even just seeing the gun that they're using and stuff, and seeing it in action. Obviously it shows up on screen anyway, but seeing them actually using it, I think all of those things are really good for us to be able to learn how we died and help us get better, as well as, like I said, most importantly, I just think this helps combat cheaters quite a bit, allowing you to report them when you can sort of very clearly see that they're cheating, rather than just pretty much having to guess in the system that we currently have. But that is it for some of my more nitpicky little issues with the game. None of these are really game breaking at the end of the day, but they're just little things that I think would really add to the quality of life. I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts on all of these down below though, so be sure to leave a comment, and obviously let me know any changes that you guys want to see as well, because I'm keen to read all of your thoughts and I can hopefully send some of this feedback through to EA as well. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.